So it is 7 o'clock, we call the meeting to order. Michelle, will you read the sunshine law notice?
This is a regular meeting of the Mayor and Council of the Borough of Keyport, Tuesday, February 21st, 2023. Let the minutes show that adequate notice of this meeting as required by Public Law 1975, Chapter 231, has been provided by the annual notice, which has been posted on the bulletin boards filed with the Borough Clerk and has been sent to the Asbury Park Press, the Independent, and the Star Ledger.
Thank you. Please do the roll call, please.
Councilmember Demarest.
Here.
Councilmember Riley.
Here.
Councilmember Vecchio.
Here.
Councilmember Pepperoni.
Here.
Councilmember McNamara.
Here.
Council President Davidson. Here.
I'm pretty sure.
Mayor Arania.
Here.
And for the record, Borough Attorney Victoria Flynn.
Here.
Chief Torres.
Here.
And Borough Engineer Derek Jordan.
Here.
And we also have an engineer from CME, Matt Silkra.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you. Will you join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd also like everybody to stand for a few minutes of silence for Jim Trunser. He was the director of Monmouth County Parks since 1965. Thank you. We're going to start with the committee reports, and I will start with Councilmember Demarest.
Yes, I'd like to report on the KBBC. They were supposed to be meeting on February 14th. It was canceled because it was Valentine's Day. But what I still believe it's in progress is to get the farmers market down here to the Cottage Inn parking lot. And the reason I believe that should happen is for the senior citizens more than anything else. They need to be able to get out of that building, walk down there, and buy a pair of socks if that's what they want to do. And that's why I truly believe that that farmers market needs to be back down where it was for many, many years. Okay? The other thing I'd like to report on is the public works. You know, I was going to wait on this, but I'm not. I'm going to speak because I believe that's what I'm here to do for the people of Keyport. Okay? There's been a huge disconnect between the DPW and its prior administration. Huge, huge disconnect. So much so, it was rooted in hate. Hate! It shouldn't be that way in Keyport. That's how it was rooted. There was finger pointing, and actually people took sides. So what I'm here to say is I'd like to straighten that out and help that and make it be a part of Keyport. Because really, what DPW is sewer and water. That's what it really is. And then the aesthetics of the town. Okay? When people drive in this town, you need to see this town as aesthetically the way it should be to appease people in this town, but also the people that visit as well. So I would like to continue my work with the DPW to help them connect and get back out and do the things, fix the potholes, do the things aesthetically of this town that needs to be done for the people of this town. Period. Okay? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councilmember Riley.
Thank you, Mayor. So I have a couple things. The Environmental Commission had a meetup on February 11th at the Cedar Street Park. They distributed Christmas trees on the beach to help with flooding and sand dune growth. And 28 trees were collected, and there was also a mini beach cleanup. First Aid had a total of 170 runs from January 1st to February 7th. And this evening, First Aid is holding a refresher course for local volunteer first responders. It's for using Narcan and EpiPen. 65 volunteers are attending from surrounding towns. I met with the fire chiefs at the beginning of February, and we also discussed there was, on February 3rd, there was a really big fire in Holmdel. It was one of those crazy cold days. So Keyport assisted as they do, and when they were retracting the aerial ladder, there was a loud bang. So the truck was inspected, and the aerial waterway tube and mounting was damaged. A claim was submitted to the insurance, and an appraisal returned to the insurance company. So that's getting dealt with. The truck is still in service. And that's all.
Thank you. Councilmember Beckley?
Thank you, Mayor. For Municipal Alliance, there will be a drug jeopardy event happening at the Senior Center on April 6th as a way of incorporating prescription drug information to the attendees. They are also looking to perhaps have cards supplied to the seniors where they can fill out their prescription drug lists if those details are ever needed at doctor's appointments or in an emergency. They were hoping to have the kids participate in that, but because of HIPAA rules, we think that might not be allowed, so we're at least looking to dispense the cards to people so they can use them. And Municipal Alliance is planning to have a table set up at the town Easter egg hunt in April. For the police, last week, the Keyport Central School 5th graders started their 10-lesson Too Good for Drugs LEAD program with SRO Officer Almack, where she taught them about setting short-term health goals. And the Monmouth County Livestock 4-H Youth Club brought the Keyport Police oxygen masks that can be used on animals, which was very cute if anyone saw the pictures from that. Harbor Commission. We had a hybrid meeting on Monday, February 13th, due to a few members being away. Some of the highlights were that a plan was confirmed for the kayak locker repairs to start, and that will actually end up being a joint effort with DPW and members of the Harbor Commission, which I thank them for stepping in and helping as well. These repairs will include the door replacements and the hardware that will go with them. And also on the end of the kayak lockers is that there will be a few changes to the leases this year. Those include no automatic renewals, only one locker being offered per residential address, and a lottery system if there are more applications than lockers. And the application should be available sometime in March. Season passes are in the process of being printed. We are looking to have the concession contract go out to bid shortly. We're actually going to reach out to our borough attorney, Vicki Flynn, with help with that because we believe that the contract needs to be more user-friendly because right now there's some items on it that actually aren't enforceable on our end. So we want to make sure that it's more streamlined. We're looking to extend the charter through December, and then it will go out to bid. I believe in the fall of 2023 is what we're looking for so that the next contract can be done because that will be a 3-year contract we're looking for and it needs Green Acres approval. We asked DPW to put trash cans at the end of Walnut Street and an additional one at Fireman's Lot, which was done. And the next large item that we are looking to tackle is the boat ramp dredging. And as soon as I get in contact with our BA, hopefully this week or next week, I'm going to address that with her as that's our biggest item of business at this point. And that's everything. Thank you.
Councilmember Pepperoni?
Thank you. So for recycling, we're working with Hazlitt to do a joint summer program for the kids. As soon as our BA and their new BA get up to speed, we'll be working on that. For the senior center, the heat is down at the senior center, so they're going to be closed tomorrow. Hopefully, the plan is to be back up for Thursday, back open. For recycling, the recycling calendars are in the post office, the Borough Hall, Senior Center, and Library. And they're also online, you can pick those up. And then for Union Beach's registrar report, total collected $70. For Keyport Board of Health, we collected $9,303. Majority of that was food handlers at $7,100. And that is it for me.
Thank you. Councilmember McNamara?
Thanks. Can I just ask you a quick question? Did you at first, Ron, say, Councilman Pepperoni, did you at first say that recycling with Hazlitt with kids?
No,
Did
no.
you mean
Recreation.
recreation? Oh, okay. I wrote recycling. and I was like,
I'm like reading the two in one.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I
It
got
was
it.
recreation.
Yes, it's recreation. I didn't say recreation.
I don't know.
Did I?
Yeah.
All right, I just wanted to double check.
Tough day, Cal.
Again,
Thanks
we're
for
recycling
fixing
as
that.
far as kids are.
First rate.
All right, thank you.
For recycling kids. we're doing it.
Okay, sorry. Let's see. NPP, signage and wayfinding, expect to see continuation of the decorative street and stop signs for the remaining NPP zone during the spring and summer. Looking to meet with our borough engineer to review a few potential projects and assess what needs to be considered to possibly move them forward. For example, the mini park, there's some work that's being suggested there, but I know first we have some critical repair work that needs to happen on the stairs over there before we can do anything else. Kearney Street is on the list of NPP projects. That's the Kearney Street Park, and there's some resident surveys that are being prepared. So looking for some input on updating this pocket park. The Main Street lot, after further investigation, it looks like the ceiling might not be the recommendation because that would then become an annual thing that we would have to do. There is a list on an item on the punch list regarding lips between public and private areas over there that need to be resolved, and that's in the works. Finance and grants, looking into available grants to continue the efforts for funding at Fireman's Park. Tonight we have a public hearing, and we hope that we can encourage all residents to participate in the survey. We have some copies here for you tonight as well. I'm happy to report that there have been numerous businesses that have been able to apply for and receive grants through both the Monmouth County and the New Jersey EDA programs that have been available for small businesses. Worksheet budget documents were provided to all departments back on February 2nd with a 3-week turnaround time limit, so they're due back this Thursday. And we're looking at the calendar to solidify a date for this year's budget work session. Councilmember Riley, myself, Municipal Clerk Clark met 2 weeks ago with Trevor Taylor of CME to discuss priority projects that we're hoping to get funding for, like the Green Acres one being discussed tonight, and other ongoing grants that KPD and other parts of our borough typically take advantage of. And yes, one last reminder for anyone that was a homeowner or renter in New Jersey in October 2019, you have 1 week left to file your anchor property tax relief. So that's up to $1,500 for homeowners, and I think it's $450 for renters. Green Team is looking for possible collaboration with other groups. We are trying to work on community education and outreach via seminars, so we'll be working with seeing if there's things that overlap for Green Team and other groups. We do meet on this upcoming Tuesday at 7 p.m., always looking for folks to join. Green Team tips of the month are available on Keyboard Online. And then on cannabis, I spoke with our attorney who's working on that litigation. The cases are both moving along nicely. Could see resolution hopefully by the end of March, early April on those. The subcommittee is looking to meet next week and get the new members up to speed and begin the process of seeing what updates should be considered to our forms and processes, much like the CRC just did. And that's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Council President Davidson?
Thank you. I'll start with Planning Board. We had our reorganization meeting on January 26th. In that meeting, we had our election of officers. We had our chairman, re-elected Mark Sessa, our vice chairman, Harry Almack. Appointment of our Planning Board secretary was Denise Nellis. Appointment of the attorney was Mark Lexstein. And the engineer was T&M Associates, Fran Mullen. We reviewed our dates for 2023, and we had a couple small applications and resolutions on the agenda. Our next meeting for Planning Board is this Thursday, 7 p.m., right here in Chambers. We had a redevelopment meeting back it was January 19th. Councilman Pepperoni, myself, former Administrator Jay Delaney, and the new redevelopment attorneys met. We had a very productive and energetic meeting. We discussed various applications, pending ideas and thoughts, and the vision overall for Keyport going forward. We are looking to meet again in the middle of March when our new BA takes her place here, and we can have more productive meetings and get moving on some really great things for Keyport. Mayor, that's all I have for tonight.
Thank you. So for myself, the mayor's update. I received a call on February 5th from Chief Torres regarding a water main break located on Highway 35 near the intersection of Lapataton Avenue. She had advised that our DPW Superintendent, Bob Puchman, and DPW staff was called in, as well as several police officers. The borough engineer from Collier's, Derek, was also there to assess the water main break, and he'll speak about it later on the day's update. The water main caused the southbound lanes of Highway 35 to be closed. We also had to call in B&W for a public emergency and needed immediate services. They had came out to work and repair. The road was not reopened until the evening of 2/6, when the repair was completed. This took many hours of overtime for both DPW and police, as well as the cost for the repair from B&W, which was approximately $64,000. I would like to acknowledge Chief Torres, Bob Puchman, and Steve O'Dwyer for keeping me up to date on the details throughout the night and day. I met with Keyport Kiwanis Club, where it was discussed that they would like an opportunity to present to the full governing body the option of bringing back the flea market this year, or as they call it, the market. They know that they need to present to the full governing body for their approval and are working on a proposal for all. They were advised that the permitting fees have been increased by the borough ordinance, and they would also need to take that into account. When they're ready, they'll submit their proposal to the governing body. I also met with the library. Once again, the door closure broke on February 3rd. They have reached out to C&M to install a new door sooner than what it was actually planned. In the meantime, they have a temporary fix on the new door. The director is working with the clock repairer to get a date to fix the clock. So maybe it's like TikTok, fix the clock, or something to get the excitement going. The Garden Club donated a beautiful display of flowers that were placed in the adult section of the library, and will be changing them out periodically. The Garden Club does a wonderful job as our Barrow Fairies, and I'd like to acknowledge them. They're silent, but their displays are always out and about throughout the year. I would also like to invite the residents to revisit the library if they have not done so lately. It's not just reading books, there's a lot more to offer there. That's all I have to say. Okay. Before we go to public comment, are there any questions on the consent agenda from the governing body?
I have some. So thank you for the update on the water main break, and I'm just curious, I see the $63,000, and I'm just, because it was a highway, a state highway, I'm curious whose jurisdiction and who assumes the cost?
It's
and-
ours because of the pipe. The pipe actually belongs to the borough. There was nothing wrong with the grounds. So we
Okay.
actually had to break the ground, so we are responsible for it.
So the full 63 is us?
Yeah.
Okay. And then I have a question. I see that there's 3 items on here for incoming BA. Has that contract been signed?
I think she has, sent over to her, yeah.
Well, I'm just, because if we're actually appointing her, is she,
Well, you have to appoint her those, so that,
To
so that the
these.
contracts for her to have those appointments. You could make those appointments either,
no, but I mean, did she sign a contract with the borough?
Yes.
Oh, okay, because if we're putting her on, is it
Yeah,
to make
yeah,
sure
yeah.
that she officially signed
Yeah.
it? Because the
yeah,
last
she's
meeting.
officially like started to.
We've been
Okay, that's it.
Anybody else? Okay.
Mayor, so I have one quick question on the payment of bills. I may have missed this all along, but I'm not sure. The gas bill for Lincoln Hose, and I don't know if there's anybody here to answer it, is $981. I'm not sure if that's typical of Lincoln Hose. It just, usually they seem pretty low in the firehouses, and that seemed really high, so just curious
Yes.
if we can maybe look into
Yeah, Michelle, can you look into that? Okay, does anybody else have anything? Okay, so we're gonna go into the public comment portion. The meeting is open to the public. Do you have a motion?
motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody have any questions, comments? Mr. Fitopoulos, Denny?
Mayor, Council, it's a pleasure to be here. Dennis Fitopoulos, 77A Beer Street, Keyport. First question was to Councilmember Demarest. You had mentioned the farmer's market. were you talking about the flea market when you were talking about buying socks? Okay, so when is the farmer's market coming?
That's what I was told it was called.
No,
Okay, it could be
no,
a flea
yeah.
market, okay? But everybody knows what I'm talking about. It's right down
Yeah,
here.
the flea
I call it the
market.
Yee Cottage Inn parking lot. That's where I grew up, that's what I knew it as. Now it might be something different. But what I'm saying is, they call it the farmer's market, could be something different, but that's what I'm talking about.
I was at,
The KBVC actually is looking to relocate the farmer's market to
To-
Fireman's lot.
okay.
Yes,
All right.
but it hasn't actually come before us with all of the dates.
Okay, all right. So you don't know when that's gonna happen?
No, we didn't have a meeting in February, so I'm sure it's gonna be in the March meeting.
Understood, okay. And then, let's see. All right, the JIF. I see that we're obviously authorizing Administrator Humphrey to be the fund commissioner. I wasn't here for reorg. Did you, is that an annual approval, the JIF?
Yes, and Jay Delaney actually had it before, so as he has left, we have to switch it over to the new VA.
Sure. Did you guys consider any other insurance funds besides the JIF, given some of the displeasure that's been expressed?
I think we are thinking about that. We spoke with the new business administrator to discuss that also.
Is that something that we signed a contract for, or is that, so we would have to wait another year or whatever the
No, the
term of the
JIF,
contract?
the JIF I think we can still take, am I correct?
No, the JIF
Yes.
is usually an annual and you have like a contract, so you appoint it.
Right.
So you usually have to wait. There could be some language in the contract or in the bylaws, quite honestly, to withdraw earlier.
Right.
But that was the recommendation that was made to this, from the prior business administrator to this borough council as to how to proceed going forward. But those items are always under review.
Okay. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? John?
John Merla, 34 Broad Street. Just to follow up on Councilmember Davidson's comments regarding the planning board. After yourself and Councilwoman Davidson left, during the public session of that planning board reorganization, I brought up something that I think the council should be aware of, and I recommended to the planning board attorney that any resolution that's finalized before the planning board, there should also be in that resolution stipulation that says the planning board does not approve tax abatements. It's up to the mayor and council to approve tax abatements. There are projects in Keyport right now that are ready to become developed. One on Manchester that has a 4x8 sign on the fence, and it says, look to buy tax abatement. This council never approved tax abatements for that project, so it's falsified information, which the borough could be liable someday, even though the realtor is trying to promote a tax abatement. And I'm not going to argue and say if I'm for or against, but I have some problems with tax abatements in the back in the years past and pilot programs. So I think what you should do is you should look into that further and agree that the planning board should put that stipulation in any resolution for any future development, because it's a sale for a realtor, and it would become a mess for the borough, because if I bought something that said it offers a 5-year tax abatement, I would want that abatement. And if I didn't get it, you'd be sued. And that's just the first thing. The second thing is that regarding Mr. Papopoulos' comment regarding the JIF, you do all remember in November, you passed an extension on the JIF. So I asked Mr. Delaney who the JIF coordinator was, and that night he didn't know. So the JIF had expired. It's only an extension until if you re-up or not. And I believe at the last meeting, you referred to Councilmember McNamara and Councilwoman Riley.
To look into it with business administrator.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Jack?
Jack Straub, 235 Main Street. For Councilmember Demers, just seems to still be a little bit of confusion. there were two different markets in Fireman's Park. For a number of years, KBBC's Farmers Market, which is Thursdays from about noon until about 7, had been there. Last year, it was switched to the mini park. I think KBBC is looking to move it back to Fireman's Park. What used to be called the flea market, which was on Sundays, was there for a long time. The last administration decided not to bring them back. Mayor Ranio just mentioned that it looks like Kiwanis might be petitioning again to bring it back again. So just to clarify, two separate markets that we're using Fireman's Park. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Ellen?
Elmer J. Graham Jr., 22 St. Peter's Place. Good evening, Madam Mayor. Good evening, Borough Council. A few things on there. First of all, the flea market, it's about time that it comes back to Keyport. Definitely about time. And it's been economic when it was there in Keyport, here in Keyport, the waterfront. It was an economic boom for our borough, you know, and especially for our businesses and stuff. And I'm glad that it's, you all are considering finally bringing that back.
Well, we're not considering it. They approached us. They have not
Right.
come before us yet. They just had a meeting with myself.
Well, hopefully it can come back to our borough. I don't understand why the last administration, the last mayor, and then, oh well, I won't get into it. Okay. On resolution 2023-77, can you all more or less explain that?
Yeah, so that one is, that resolution provides for the return of money that they post for a maintenance bond. So now that they don't need to use the maintenance bonds, they need to collect on that bond, it gets returned back to the developer.
Okay.
They have to post a bond to file an application.
And of course, hopefully it'll benefit the taxpayers of Keyport.
Oh, I hope so, but that bond won't.
Okay, okay.
I mean, it's there to protect the town in the event
Okay.
they need to. But now that it's to be released.
Okay, and another one, resolution 2023-85. Can you all more or less explain that, or?
That's for the AC Hartwood. The Green Acres. Which, this one, that's granting the extension.
Oh, it's the charter. Charter? Oh, yeah, that's the one that's extending the charter, the licensure, to memorialize that this contract has allowed for it to be extended for one more year.
Okay.
Just memorializing that language that was in the contract. The charter, the group that holds that license wanted some clarity on that issue, so we're doing it by resolution.
Okay.
And it'll be rebid.
Oh.
So that going forward, it'll be very clear going forward as to the rights and responsibilities going forward.
Okay.
It actually extended it to the end of this year.
Yeah.
December. So
Yeah.
it took us a few months extension.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anybody else? Okay, since we have anybody else?
Somebody raise their hand like this.
Someone raise their hand.
Make up your mind.
Hi, good evening. I'm a little slower than the rest of you.
That's okay.
A little harder of hearing too. But my name's Carol Grabowski. Welcome to the new members and good luck to everyone. And the old ones too. I just have a question. Lately, I've seen an awful lot of people putting tons of stuff out, like I'm moving or I'm redecorating or I'm this or whatever, for garbage night. Now, my understanding was it was one piece of something and, you know, your garbage cans. And come by the next day after garbage night and it's gone, it's all gone. So I'm wondering, are we as the taxpayers paying for that, or does the, you know, is there, I thought there was an ordinance in place that said
There is.
one item.
There is an ordinance in place for that, yes. It should be one item, so if they're taking more than
Well,
what's in the ordinance.
West Second
we are paying
Street,
for it.
which is a dead end, but I happen to see a lot of stuff there. Other places around, sometimes it's toward the end of the month, maybe people are moving out. When it's a rental, is it the renter's responsibility to pay to have that taken away, or is it the landlord's, or
Should be
is it
the
the
landlord.
taxpayer?
Am I correct, Michelle? Should be. Yes, because if somebody moves out and they leave it, it would be the property owner's responsibility.
Okay, well, maybe just keep an eye on it.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, do we have a motion to approve R 2023-75 through R? Oh, okay, sorry. Motion to close.
Motion. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Okay, motion to approve the consent agenda R 2023-75 to R 2023-85. Do we have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Point of
Oh,
order,
roll
Mayor.
call, sorry about that.
Mayor, point of order. I don't think Chris should be voting on 2023-77. He lives there.
You live with that?
Oh, I do live there, you're right. I don't need to vote on it. I don't need to
No
vote on
problem.
it. It's good with me. I don't need to vote on it.
No problem.
I'll sustain or whatever.
Abstain.
Abstain.
Okay.
No big deal.
Thank you, sir. Michelle, roll call.
No problem.
Thank you.
I stepped on myself many times up there.
No worries.
Councilmember Demarest, abstain.
Abstain.
Councilmember Riley,
Yes.
you abstain only from resolution 70.
You can vote yes on the rest of them.
Yes,
I can vote rest of it, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. The rest of it.
thank you. Councilmember Riley?
Yes.
Councilmember Vecchio?
Yes.
Councilmember Pepperoni?
Yes.
Councilmember McNamara?
Yes.
And Councilmember Davidson?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. We're going to go into the public hearing portion. This is Matthew Z. Matthew, I don't know how to say your last name. He's the representative from CME for the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection Green Acres Program for funding improvement for the Fireman's Park Promenade Improvement Project. We have a motion to open, no, we don't open the public, it's for him.
Good evening, my name is Matthew Swingraff. I'm an engineer with the borough's consultant, CME Associates. We're assisting the borough in preparation of the 2023 Green Acres application to the NJDEP Green Acres program to fund improvements at Fireman's Park. Just to quickly go over some of the existing conditions, I'm sure everybody's pretty familiar with Fireman's Park, but in case you're not, we have West Front Street on the bottom of the map, American Legion Drive, over to the right, Post Office, the old Cottage Inn property in the bottom left. Over here in the top right is the existing concrete promenade and bulkhead, which was constructed in 2008. This obviously much higher than the rest of the Fireman's Park. The concrete bulkhead over here is at elevation approximately 8.0. Between this point and the Cottage Inn property is the existing timber bulkhead. This was reconstructed most recently in 2013 following Superstorm Sandy. That was reconstructed with FEMA recovery money. That was reconstructed in kind, so it was put back at the existing elevation. It was approximately elevation 4 for the timber boardwalk. Just for reference, that puts it about 2 feet above the average high tide line or the mean high water line. And then at the southwest end of the property is the existing Cottage Inn property, and that's just recently completed construction of the new bulkhead on the property, which was raised to elevation 8, which would make it consistent with the bulkhead elevation on the existing promenade. So, also in this, we're also looking at doing work at the existing Fireman's Park parking lot, which varies in elevation between elevation 3.5, right behind the bulkhead, up to elevation approximately 7 along West Front Street. As everybody here, I'm sure, is familiar, twice a month, every full moon and high tide, the parking lot floods, the timber boardwalk floods, and it's restricts vehicular access not only to the parking lot but also to American Legion Drive. You can't walk on the boardwalk. So those are all things that we're looking to address with this. The scope of the application, we're looking at demolishing the existing timber boardwalk and timber bulkhead, beginning at the west end of the existing concrete promenade, extending all the way down south and west to meet up with the newly constructed bulkhead at the Cottage Inn property. We would essentially be extending the concrete promenade and the bulkhead at the same elevation to connect those 2 points. So that would go approximately 375 feet along lots 20, 21, and 22, which make up Fireman's Park parking lot in block 2102. The new bulkhead and promenade would also include lighting, new railings, and ADA accessibility improvements. And by bringing everything up to meet those tie-in or high elevation marks on either side, we look at mitigating tidal flooding out there. So it's not going to prevent flooding in the parking lot from another Sandy, but it is going to help mitigate issues that we have with that bi-monthly spring high tide flooding and maybe some other smaller coastal storms that would impact the borough. In addition to that, we're looking at raising the existing parking lot in Fireman's Park. This would be at a maximum of up to about 3 feet directly behind the bulkhead at the north end of the parking lot, and then slowly kind of feathering down to meet the existing elevation along West Front Street. So this in turn will also help mitigate some of the flooding that affects the parking lot. And additionally, we'd be looking at installing backflow preventers in the stormwater outfalls to help prevent surcharge of tidal water coming up through those pipes and flooding the parking lot. And finally, we'd also look at including a concrete sidewalk connection between the waterfront and the sidewalk along West Front Street through that existing grass strip that currently separates Fireman's Park parking lot from the Cottage Inn parking lot. So that being said, the cost estimate that we have for those phases of work totals approximately $3.2 million. The borough currently was recently awarded $450,000 from FEMA through the state OEM for improvements to raise the bulkhead and raise the promenade. And as part of this application, we'd be requesting $900,000 from Green Acres to add to that pot of funding. That's $900,000 number was chosen because it's the maximum funding cap for a town of our size and our population density. And as Councilmember McNamara mentioned before, there is a survey available, so we welcome any public comments to the content of the application. We can certainly take that into consideration when we're making the application to Green Acres.
Before we open to the public, I want to see if anybody on the dais had any questions for him.
What will changing these elevations do to flooding on Front Street?
So as far as flooding on Front Street, there's not too much we can do with that with this project. Front Street's at approximately elevation 7, where it runs between the bridge over the creek and Beer Street, where it kind of raises up a little bit in front of Apollo Sewer. So there's not too much that this application is going to do to really rectify anything there. It's really just more focusing on the parking lot and on the boardwalk.
But it won't make it worse?
It wouldn't make it worse, no. Yeah.
Anybody else?
Nat, so today I went by, and obviously today was one of those flood days over there, and I noticed by where the fishery owners did their bulkhead, that's in place. Obviously, that's not preventing any flooding because we haven't done our part. So is the theory that when our part is done and all these other things happen, that we're not going to see what I saw today?
Yeah, essentially, it's the kind of plan that requires all the parts to be in place for it to function correctly.
And is the thought to do this in stages? So maybe like do the bulkhead, then do the boardwalk, then elevate, like is that the order?
Yeah, essentially, so, and again, it would also depend on funding that comes in for it to kind of drive how it works, but it's laid out in such a way that it can be phased. The first phase would obviously be replacing the bulkhead, installing the new promenade, and then from there we can work out with the raising the parking lot and connecting the walkway to West Front Street.
Thank you. And just one thing that I want to add, I know you have questions too, but up on the corner of the desk here, we do have some information about this in like a user-friendly, and there is a copy of the survey here. So if you do take the hard copy survey and fill it out, you can put it in the white mailbox in the hall, or you can go online, there's a fillable form, and then you can just email it to Denise Nellis.
And just add, there's a summary of the application posted on the website along with the cost estimate and concept plan if anybody would like to review that.
You know, all these documents are up there if you go to the main borough page, and there's a Green Acres, click on. Thank you.
Once the promenade is met with the existing bulkhead, right, and that's all built up, what's the benefit to raising the parking lot at that point? So if raising the bulkhead is going to be preventing the water from coming in as it does in other areas, what's the benefit to raising the 2 to 3 feet of the parking lot?
Raising the parking lot, that's going to help also with the flooding because right now there's storm sewer grates that are in the parking lot that even with, we have seen issues with the backflow preventers on the stormwater outfall, so it's not always a sure guarantee that those are going to hold back floodwater, so which is why we're also proposing to raise that parking lot along with that to mitigate the flooding, just to build up the elevation.
All right, so clearly not an engineer, so we raise the parking lot and the sewer levels, the sewer grates stay a little bit lower, so the water flows from the parking lot that's now raised in to to promote the water leaving?
So if we raise up the parking lot, we'd be raising the sewer grates up with it, which would get us additional, I guess, vertical, clearance or freeboard from that flood water.
Understood. Thank you.
Charging up to the place.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
I do have a burning question that is in everyone's mind, but it's funny, but it's not. And ensure your lighting fixtures, they will not allow any nesting. I know I had to say it.
We'll keep them low enough to.
I didn't want to say the word. And are you changing any entrances and exits?
So,
are you planning on changing the traffic pattern at all?
as far as the parking lot, we don't have any plans in there to change that. And at this level, as part of the grant applications, we're still taking pretty broad strokes at it. There's no, finalized detailed engineering plan that goes along with it. So
you have an approximate start time?
That would depend on when funding comes through and be in place. So
thank you.
I have a question. So right now, with the 450,000 that we have, and we get 900,000, the rest is going to be bonded, I'm assuming? Because that's still a significant amount of money for the taxpayers.
Yeah, so it would either be capital funding or through a combination of other funding resources that we might pursue for this.
So are we going to be looking for some other resources besides this?
Yeah, so we're always on the lookout for programs that might be a good fit for.
Because if we get the 900,000 and we have 450, we still have $1.4 million to go through that we need to bond for. I would hope that we're going to be pursuing other grants.
Yep.
We definitely will be, and the project can be phased too, so it can be broken up into smaller chunks, like the bulkhead and the promenade. We estimated about 1.9 million. So anything that we can do to kind of lessen that gap between.
Anybody else?
Just a quick comment. I think it was, maybe Rose, you remember, during the parking committee meetings, we discussed the possibility, if we ever got to redo this parking lot, close to the promenade and the bulkhead where there's handicap parking spots. I think one of the porta potties are there now. I believe there's like a curb cut and it's flat all around, and it was discussed to maybe add a fire truck, like a fire zone there. So if there is ever a fire, we need to get fire trucks in there for whatever they would need to do that. So I don't know if now is the appropriate time to just kind of make a little note of that, see if that's a possibility of keeping that space in that area. And we can refer back to the parking committee wonderful package that we have. Thank you.
Just one quick question. Keyport is a water town, correct?
Correct.
Thank you.
Derek, do you have any questions?
No.
Okay, so if you have no more questions, do we have a motion to open to the public?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Andrew?
Andrew Kelsey, 29 St. Peter's Place. So looking at the application, and some of this information was already mentioned by the engineer, The bulkhead and the promenade will be raised to 8 feet and 7.5 respectively, and the parking lot is going to be raised to approximately 6.5 feet. That's above sea level, more or less. So, Councilman Davidson, thank you for mentioning our work on the parking committee, as we have a lot of recommendations regarding this parking lot. So, as everybody knows, the lot is notorious for regular flooding. The low end can be expected to flood annually 34 times and is forecast to be 158 times by 2030. The high end currently floods about 3 times and will be expected to flood 21 times by 2030. So, the rest of the information here. Our recommendation for the elevation is to increase the entire lot to 8 feet to eliminate nuisance flooding for the next 50 years. And there's no reason why we shouldn't do that now. We're going to spend all this money while we shortchange ourselves in just 10 or 20 years. I don't think adding more elevation is going to cost that much money, would it?
We can look into that.
Yeah, I mean,
Take a look at the cost of
it's
that.
a lot of fill. It's not like the bulkhead needs to be higher or anything. So that's that for the flooding. We also talked about lighting for the lot. Let me go back a second here. We recommended that we install lighting in all the lots that are similar, so people can understand that it's municipal parking. 'Cause I know that's an issue with all the lots in town. People don't know it's public parking. Has everybody read the parking report? I mean, I know the members have. No?
No, you weren't here last year. We can provide it to everyone.
No, I know. I
Yeah.
suggested it in the January meeting.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of good stuff in here, and this is exactly the project, that's perfect to all the information. So we have, we talked about decorative lighting. I know what we have there now is just like stadium lights. Have you guys read the master plan? A few of you. And that's another thing to read. I don't know if everybody served on it, but I know a lot of people took pride in the work they put into it. And a lot of the stuff does get mentioned in there. Well, not a lot, but there are things here. Lighting, and being conscientious about the harbor and what we put into it, and runoff and that sort of thing. So light pollution is an issue for everywhere, but particularly for natural habitat. So it's important to have anti-light pollution lighting and not have the stadium lights. So that decorative lighting would be great to have that in the parking lot. Also, we recommended that the lots in town should be beautiful with landscaping to the maximum amount possible. And signage should be installed to clearly mark the location of each lot on how to navigate to them. So, you call Fireman's Park, but it's not really much of a park. And we're applying for Green Acres funding here. And I don't see a lot of green proposed in our park. So in the report, I do have a suggestion on some additional beautification, some opportunities and caps. If my scaling is right, it's possible to realign the parking lot, gain 10 space, and then provide more, you can't quite see it, but more space along the bulkhead for recreation. I think picnic tables are a great idea. I have a picture of somebody in here, they set up table and chairs in a parking space to enjoy dinner. So I think there's an opportunity along American Legion Drive to add more of that, lots of trees, put the trees in. I mean, we don't need to block the view. A lot of people come here for the view, they park in their car and they just enjoy it while they drink their coffee in the morning. But there's plenty of opportunity. And we're not going to lose spaces, so that's not even a concern, aside from the fact there's plenty of parking. But, and I think, I mean, especially since it's going to be raised, it might be an issue entering on the east side. I think we should consider possibly closing that. I don't think we need 2 entrances to the lot. We certainly don't need one that wide, very wide. So if we close that, we can get a few more spaces in there. And then I also have the area suggested for the fire apparatus to pull in and draft there.
Andrew, if you have an extra copy, would you mind giving it to Malcolm?
Michelle should have the report on record, right? Yeah, so anybody who wants to report, talk to Michelle. You know, I hate to see this just fall through the cracks and nobody at least do some of it. This is a perfect opportunity to get some of the things done. Nice signs, nice lights. Just make that area nicer. I mean, it's a hellscape right now. It's just a big parking lot. It sizzles in the summer. Let's put some trees in. You don't have to go crazy. I believe that pretty much wraps up my recommendations. I encourage you guys to read the report and the master plan. Seems a lot of the master plan gets ignored since we put it in place, so there's a lot in there. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Jeff?
Jack Straub, 235 Main Street. Matthew, the tide this morning was about 6 feet, so this would cover this morning's tide. And you're saying we cover up to about an 8-foot tide.
Up to, yeah, I think that roughly corresponds to like a 10-year storm event.
Got it. But the norm on today was a full moon, it's coastal flood. You see, but 6 foot would be covered. Thank you. As far as the funding, I'm a little confused. So it says in the ordinance, total amount's $3.2 million, 900,000 matching grant, which leaves a balance of $2.3 million. Says that the borough would ask for a loan from the state. The 900, is 900 matching? Is that 450 and 450, including the 450 that we got in the Green Acres grant?
No.
Or is that's not? So it's 900. That's 900 Keyport's portion, and then another 900 coming from this.
From Green Acres. We have 450 from FEMA.
Okay, so it's all right. So working backwards, then it's 3.2. You remove the 900 from Green Acres, brings it to 2.3. 900 of that is ours, and then the balance is we're going to ask for a loan from the state. Yeah. Okay.
Unless we can find
Right.
additional funding from additional grants.
Okay. All right. Thanks. Oh.
And I do believe that the 450 that we got, we can use as part of our 900 match. So if we can continue to find other funding and grants,
Got it. But
it's
the
not like we
confusing
need
part
to
was
come up with the whole 900
because the grant was 450 and 450 and 450 is 900. I was wondering if
Yeah,
so that's
yeah.
that's separate. I got it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Mr. Long?
Short Wally, 54 Second Street. Basically, Andrew touched on a lot of my points here, but can I step over to that? So my understanding is we're raising the parking lot.
Correct.
We're not doing anything with here on a ring road.
Nothing on American Legion Drive as part of the application.
All right, well, how would you get, I understand what you said about closing up driveways, but I think you need both just for egress of the cars leaving. You could have 15 leaving at one time, or you could have 2. That's relevant. But it floods right now here, almost all the way over to here. What do you think is going to happen if we don't raise this?
That would still be an issue with flooding.
So we're really not solving the problem. We're just planting a couple of trees, make it look good. All right, thank you very much.
Benny?
Mayor, thank you for, you said 1.4 million approximately, right? So where are we, the total was 3.2? I don't need to know the math, but as long as we understand that the 1.4 or so is what we would need to bond moving forward, right?
Unless we can get additional grants.
Unless we can get additional grants, and there's always funding options too. I mean, we're still going through the finance, we're still going through the budget process and everything else. So there's other ways that can be done as well.
And that's saying that we're getting the 900.
No,
Right now.
right, everybody, we haven't gotten the 900 yet. We may not get the 900, but we're hoping that we will. Mayor, do you think it'd be a good idea, based on what Mr. Walling just said, to direct the engineering to also address the situation on American Legion Drive?
I mean, I think that is a great idea. So even though we're focusing on this one area, if that's still going to flood, we should also consider that piece right there, because that does flood.
Right.
And where's the water going to go? It's got to have a home.
May I address Matt?
Sure.
So my understanding is that once we get that bulkhead raised, the overfall isn't going to happen, but there's going to be percolation from the bay through the drain. Is that correct? On American Legion Drive. So would one of the options be to relocate that outfall? Since we're not going to have the kind of, I mean, we're going to have to drain American Legion Drive somewhere, but further up or further away, or?
We could look at that. That part of American Legion Drive is pretty much at a low point where it comes down past Mike's and right around the bend. Right where the crosswalk is at is a low point. And I agree with the comment that this scope doesn't really have anything to do with American Legion Drive, and part of the reason for that is because it's a Green Acres application, so we're applying for parkland, and I'd have to look into the details and see, but I don't know if we could expand that funding in the scope of the application.
Not necessarily the funding, but like the mayor said, the engineering for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
And then if the engineering is going to be expanded, we find other ways and means to, we could even some sort of DOT or something, DOT grant because it's one of our roads or. Now, if we weren't to raise it I agree with Mr. Kelsey about the 8 feet, but if we weren't going to raise it to the 6.5, to the 8 feet, forget that question. I think it's a good idea. I was going to do devil's advocate, but I'm not going to do that. Is there a return funded in this because it looks like the bulkhead at Port 149, I think it is a little lower, the bulkhead itself, but that could be an optical illusion.
Yeah, according to their plans, they've got the top of the bulkhead set at 8.1. So we'd have to confirm, make sure that's the case of what's out there, but that should match up with the elevation of the existing promenade that we've tied into one another.
Outside of the grants, Mayor, may I address the new engineer? How you doing?
Good, how are you?
Good. Would we need a return over there, or are we going to tie in? Do you know?
I think you could tie in. I mean, I can certainly talk.
Well, it would have to be
we'd have to coordinate between the two
and
look and see what the best option is.
If there is no, so there would be no need for a return then?
It should just be able to butt right up and make a connection right into it.
Yeah.
Okay, be able to butt right up. Forgive me here, I think that's pretty much, okay, so is it a couple of year construction, or, I mean, theirs happened pretty quick, just based on, what Port 149 did, the minute they did it in 6 months,
So what is the time frame?
So for this, depending on the scope, I mean, if it's all 3 prongs of the scope that we're looking at here, we're estimating 6 to 12 months.
But if we do it as a phase.
Yeah, if it's phased, I'd have to look into the breakdown of it a little bit more, but judging on that, there is a significant amount of work that goes into the utilities for the electric, for the promenade, the railing, lead times, things like that. So even that, I would say, would eat up a significant amount of that time, so it's still probably in the 6 to 12 month time frame.
All right, thank you all.
Thank you.
Hi, Michelle Bresca, 39 Monroe Street. So with that, that was actually my question. I was thinking like time frame, and then if we do it in phases, when like the time frame of each phase, and then when are we doing it? Because we're talking about maybe having the flea market back on Sunday morning.
We're not gonna have it
and
for a
then-
while. He's applying for the grant,
Mhm.
so we're not gonna be able to do anything until the grant comes in and they don't come over.
Right.
So,
Okay, I was just thinking, because, you know, the farmer's market might be moving down there on Thursdays, and, you know, how long would each phase take, or?
yeah, how long does a grant take approximately from Green Acres?
This one, I believe they have us starting our schedule in July. When they do ask for a schedule, they assume that an award announcement might be made in the summer. So at that point, and then from that time, there's still a lengthy permitting process involved that probably still puts it out into the following year.
And then we would have to plan it in the capital budget and find out when we want to phase it in if we do get the grant.
Yeah, I was just thinking just the different phases with all the things that we have going on, all the events all the time. And would we even be able to use it when the work is being done? So if we have events and then planned ahead of time, and then we find out this has to get done, then we're canceling. Or, you know, that's just something I'm thinking about. Thank you.
John?
John Morella, 34 Broad Street. Matt, when do you think you would have to submit this application by?
This has to be submitted by March 1st.
By March 1st. Okay, couple things. This is green acred inventory property, we all know that, right? In other words, this property, along with the fishing pier, along with the American Legion Drive former parking lot, the boat ramp, this is all on Green Acres inventory. So Green Acres basically is gonna have the final say on how much and if you're getting it at all, okay? Because they took that property and gave inventory because we took other properties, money from them like Cedar Street Ball Field. That was a Green Acres project that we took. So irregardless if it's green or if it's black, they just want open space guaranteed. That's what Green Acres wants, open space. They don't want no 11-story high-rise, they want open space. So this is a grant, could be a match. I have more concerns about the project that's going on in Union Beach, our neighboring town, only about maybe a quarter of a mile away to a half a mile away from this project. Union Beach is doing a $50 million project, all right? They're putting up a big seawall. Where's that water getting diverted to? Keensburg, Keyport. Listen, I seen it 2 weeks ago. It was high tide. The water wasn't coming above where Keyport Fishery erected a new bulkhead. It was coming around it. And, you know, like Councilman said, we are a water town. No matter how high we put that, I'm going to be honest with you, you're going to see flooding. I see flooding now that as a kid I never seen in Keyport. And I've been here 62 years. So, you know, it's a lot of money. There has to be other avenues of funding this. And we just said that, you know, we have to look at other sources, other grants, other applications. Well, previous administrations had approved that municipal open space tax. Right now, there's over $200,000 in that account. There should be more than that if we used it correctly, because last year we didn't, we misused it, and I'll show you at another time, another meeting. But my main concern is that Matt's application has to be in the borough by March 1st. I really think on a project of this magnitude, we've done it for smaller projects. I think, honestly, it warrants a special meeting with the engineer and the public and the Harbor Commission and, you know, people that are affected on the water, just to give their input. And, you know, I mean, some people on the Harbor Commission have been here a long time, so they know about the flooding. The design, I understand what you're saying, the design of the parking lot, might not change the parking aspect and the drainage. Maybe it should. And I'm not an engineer by far. But what I'm saying is maybe it should, because maybe things could be corrected that aren't there now. I mean, it's just input that maybe people that have lived along the waterfront for years and people have been on the harbor commission or waterfront committees or the parking committee like Andrew, you know, it's very viable information. So I know tonight was the public hearing. Obviously, there's people that didn't know about it, but you're against the timeline. But I also think that there's, even if he submits the application by March 1st, it's fine. It's only an application submission. You can always amend it because we're funding it anyway. Thank you. Thank you for your work.
Elmer?
Elmer J. Graham Jr., 22 St. Peter's Place. Looking at this project and from what I've heard about it and everything like that, I think it's a start and everything like that. It's a start, and I think overall it's a good idea. You know, I think it's a good project, excellent project and everything like that. But you're looking at the estimate of 6 to 12 months once to get this completed, once everything gets going.
Yeah, approximately.
Okay. I'd say about, kind of optimistic, I'd say about 2 years or so, once it gets complete, once it gets going and everything like that. But that's my opinion. And as far as more public input goes, yeah, I agree with John. I think there should be more public input on this, especially for when the people who live along there and see what their view is and everything like that. Me, myself, I'm in a non-flood area. I'm St. Peter's Place. But I go down in my walks through the borough, I see this waterfront. And we have to finally address the flooding problem on this, finally, which we're trying to do here. And God forbid there's another hurricane or superstorm Sandy, which could be worse than everything like that. But I think this is overall a good start. Thank you.
Thank you. Andrew?
As far as a lot of details I mentioned and suggested, is that something that needs to be decided now for the application, or can that, as long as it's not like a major change?
Yeah, exactly, and that's kind of what we're doing here. It's more of a location map, concept plan, showing where the project's going to be. If you look at the cost estimate, it takes pretty broad strokes when it comes to the more detailed parts about landscaping, you know, lighting, things like that. So I don't want to say it's vague, but it gives us, you know, gives us the opportunity.
Right. It's general. It's not specific. I mean, I would have to think. I haven't really got the response of what anybody thinks of I suggested, but I would have to think that adding more greenery would help the application. Seriously, I mean, it's Green Acres. I don't know what it takes to get a Green Acres grant, but do they want to pay for a parking lot only? That doesn't serve anything else. So that's all.
Robert Almack, 67 West Front Street. Bear with me with my cheat sheet here because I made several notes. Little back history, it was probably raised in 1980s. The parking lot, John was talking about it. Tide just keeps coming up. We played an aircraft in there, boom, they built this promenade now, we blocked the water, it's coming up again. So it's going to be a necessary thing we're going to follow forever. So I don't think that's ever going to change. Let's see. Here's the biggest thing. You have to take a pick here. You have to pick parking or parks. I lived on West Front Street here when they did the thing behind my house, and it was picked. We had this gigantic parking lot with plenty of parking for the events. Now someone's saying you should make it more park. I agree with that. You know, it would make it more appealing to the eye with the parking lot, but you're going to lose parking spots. And with that being said, the biggest thing the lady got up here and said about events, I mean, the biggest thing's going to be happening. Basically, when this project's going on, there's going to be no events in this town. So there are St. Patrick's Day parades and all this stuff, and all these lots are used to their max capacity. So this is something that really got to be in consideration. Here's a big one as far as funding. Keyport Fireman's Fair. That is the main source that keeps the doors open on all the fire stations in this town. We lost it for 2 years and literally we're losing a company because there's just no funding. So something to think about, that if you're gonna close this for a year, 6 months, whatever, and we lose the fireman's fair and the chief is here, it should be something, it's gotta be said right now. The funding's gonna have to be made up for the fire department because we can't keep our doors open. If not, then you're gonna have to pick $6.5, $7 million and build us a central fire station. You own it, you maintain it, then build your parking lot. The taxpayer in me saying you're out of your mind trying to spend improvements in this economic climate. The taxes here are going to the roof and you're gonna say 1.2 on a parking lot. Okay, you know, that sounds good, but you're gonna tax the people out of here as a big one. Couple things for the engineer. I really find it hard to believe that you went and looked at that twice a month and noticed the flooding and didn't notice that the road totally goes underwater and you can't use it. I find it hard to believe. That's an engineer. A resident has to bring that up, so I'm sitting there scratching my head. And we've been discussing this in the Harbor Commission, so it's a little upsetting that there's a plan afloat that never came to us. And I've been here, I'm on the Harbor Commission 5 years, that there's a thing afoot. That's even better. I mean, the picture shows the E-Cottage Inn. That hasn't been there for 10 years. So maybe something a little more updated with a photograph of what the current bulkhead, the guy Mike Nasta just put a lot of money in. Yeah, his program didn't take that long, but he is literally just did the bulkhead. He did no backfill, no splash pads, no returns, no drainage, and he was 6 months. So to think that a governmental project's gonna do that in 6 months is you're out of your mind, to be honest. So those are just some of the things. I know from being on the Harbor Commission, permits for the, to do anything along the waterfront are 2 to 3 years out. So with that being in mind, what is the percentage increase per year on this project that's $3.4 million? That's now going to be 2 years out. Are we going to be another 20%? So we're at 3.7 with a matching fund of only 1.3. So these are things that I just threw in notes in 5 seconds in the back here. So I think a little more needs to go into this before we apply for a grant for a project that really I don't think has been thought through. I mean, a big thing, a promenade coming along where the E-Cottage Inn is. If you went there, there's a big electrical box in the middle of it which runs our fairgrounds. Where would that go? I mean, there's little observations. There was beautiful trees down there. They're gone because somebody didn't like the trees. The stumps, there was nothing wrong with them. So it was a park. You know, it's a monument to our deceased, and another one is going in May. So thank you, Mayor. I'm sorry for going over 5.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, do we have a motion to close to the public?
Motion.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, with all that information, do we want to approve resolution 2023-86? Do we have a motion to approve?
Motion.
Roll call.
Councilmember Demarest.
Yes.
Councilmember Riley.
Yes.
Councilmember Vecchio.
Yes.
Councilmember Pepperoni.
Yes.
Councilmember McNamara.
Yes.
Councilmember Davidson.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam.
Now we're going to go to the public hearing adoption of the ordinances. Michelle, do you want to read the ordinance by title?
This is an ordinance of the Borough of Keyport, County of Monmouth, New Jersey, amending and supplementing Chapter 12, Building and Housing, Article 2, Housing Code, Section 3, amendments of the revised general ordinances of the Borough of Keyport.
Okay, do we have a motion to open public?
Motion?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any questions? Elmer?
Elmer J. Graham Jr., 22 St. Peter's Place. On this ordinance, it says revising occupancy limitations. What, you proposing changes in this ordinance, or can you more or less explain to us?
Yes. So Mr. Graham, in this ordinance, the council intended to place limitations on the amount of people that are in certain residences throughout the town.
Okay.
To avoid overcrowding because of the public health and safety risk associated with some of the smaller spaces being limited. And so I was instructed to take a look at this, put in place something to restrict those, to avoid overcrowding in some of the structures throughout the town, residential structures.
And it's about time too, because for too many years this has gone on in Keyport, the overcrowding of some houses and everything like that, people, it's unsafe.
It's scary, right?
Yes, it is scary.
And so it was one of the first things they asked me to take a look at and get out, so we'll adopt it here today, and it will help hopefully create a safer Keyport going forward.
Unfortunately, Keyport's not the only town or borough in New Jersey with this problem and everything like that, so.
But this gives the authority too of the borough to enforce it as well.
Right.
They needed this in order to enforce, those type of restrictions.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Anybody else, Denny?
Dennis Vitopoulos, 77 Beer Street. Was this not addressed already in the ordinance?
Not this level, no.
And why, just out of just from a format perspective, it's going under amendments. Why not baking it into the ordinance? Because there's some repetition in the ordinance itself. And rather than putting it could be a law thing that I'm not familiar with, but why is it going in the amendments section of the actual law?
Because that's where this section, and this is where it would lie for other towns too. So this is how you would amend it. I don't know if I'm understanding your question, quite honestly.
I don't know if I understand why it's going in amendments and it's not being, it wouldn't be, so once E360 gets it, they'll bake it into the ordinance outside of the amendment section? Or we're just gonna add to the amendments?
Adding to the section there, amendments.
Okay, and there's a section, I think, that's below amendments that speaks.
These are the amendments that will be added in as they're identified.
Under 12-2.3. 12-3 is unfit dwellings. Can it be put into there instead, or just so it's? And anyway, we don't have to discuss that now. I was just curious as to why we're flooding the amendment section of it when it can be just put into the actual unfit dwellings itself. Just what's the they have a definition of dwelling unit, but you also specify rental. Why is rental being singled out under those circumstances and not every residential dwelling in
What
the
section are you looking at, sir?
I tried to bring it up. Can someone help me?
405-7.
Yeah, there you go. So above that, two paragraphs above that, I think it says dwellings, and 2 paragraphs below it says
Rentals. Right.
why just rentals?
Let's see, no rentals. Oh, I think because in rentals,
They're unbreakable.
so I think in terms of why is this in rentals and why they, in housing, they use that term rentals for this purposes, is because a lot of these homes, when people are renting it, they are using, and I've heard there being complaints, they're using these type of spaces for sleeping purposes. And this gives the landlord the ability to restrict that. And if there's an issue, to bring it to the attention and have the borough to come in and help them. So that's where the issue lies, in rental.
Mayor, are we singling out just rentals in this, or is it going to be for the whole? Is it going to be for everybody?
Yeah, that's it. But it's also about rentals. There's a different distinction between rentals and giving landlords the ability. And the complaint that has been provided to the borough is that this is happening in homes that are owned by people, and they're renting it out. And in this rental capacity, they're using these areas that aren't really designated for sleeping for people to sleep.
I don't disagree with this, with the notion, even though I think a pull-out couch in the living room should be okay. But I don't know why. I would question why we're singling out rentals when the same situation could arise in an owned property. Does the council have any thoughts on that, or Mayor?
No, I do see what you're saying, but I'm going by what our attorney has advised in this. So if you have here rentals and you have dwellings, it would be this.
All rental, it applies to all dwelling units.
So it wouldn't be, so if you're gonna keep rentals in there, then do you need to update the definitions too? Because rentals aren't in there. They're not, dwelling is defined, but not rental.
Right, and I think well, we don't have to define rentals because rentals are different than dwelling units, under the code, under the law.
Right.
I think it's self-explanatory.
So
I mean, I would define rentals to mean, a dwelling unit for which is used to be rented out. There would be no distinction. But that's the issue with rentals.
So the rental population is typically a population that can't afford to buy a home. So we're singling out the
I
people.
don't know if that's the case. I don't think I'm not going to accept that definition.
Okay, then why are we, if that's not the case, then why are we, I would just ask the council to consider changing that from rental to all dwellings, just to make it, because the fire code is the same for rentals as it is for a house. Fire code is the same for a condo as it is for an apartment.
And I think, sir, I gave you the answer why they distinguish it in housing. For rentals, this is a section that's intended to help landlords to be able to enforce. They enter into a lease agreement with someone. Let's give you a scenario. There's a lease agreement.
Yep,
And they say, oh, I'm going to live here with just my family and 3 people, and it's all going to be well. And that's not what happens. So then they need a section, and they need like the code enforcement to come out and help them, because they have a lease, but are they really going to go and enforce that lease, or is it better to have the town to come back and help you enforce?
I think it's a great idea.
But that's where it comes from. That's the genesis.
Yeah.
It's not like I sat down and wrote this, and came up with this.
No,
in there.
I'm not,
This is the
I thought it was a
genesis.
mistake, to be honest. I thought renters were being, I thought it was a mistake, but it's not. It's specifically.
Come out of housing law.
So the same does apply to just regular dwellings, or no?
No.
So in a dwelling.
The dwelling encompasses everything. So the first section is
An
all
owned
about
house.
dwellings.
Right.
And I'm telling you, the rental portion, it comes out, again, it's not like I drafted it, it's out of housing law. Years and years of housing law, there's been this, but I'm explaining to you because you're disagreeing with the genesis of this language. And I'm trying to explain it to you. It comes from years and years of housing law that's developed through the years in terms of how do you distinguish these two. And there's a need for rentals to give the landlord, to give someone who's the owner. You might have property and you're renting out, and you want something in the law to give you, to enforce what you have in a lease that might not be going on.
I appreciate that as a property owner.
I wish I was a property owner.
I appreciate
I have
that.
one house, the one I live in.
Yeah.
I'm in dwelling. I never get to get
You're
to the
dwelling.
rental section.
Right. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
John?
John Merle at 34 Broad Street. Just to follow up on Mr. Patopoulos' comments, you all do remember, this was a recommendation of Tony Vecchio. He came before this council and said, based on the inspections that they're making in this town, you need more teeth on the rental and you need to change the ordinance. And the people that are doing the revow in our community, I know you know this, more than 30% aren't letting people in their homes. What does that tell you? Because they're doing something illegal. This is going to stop that. And that's what you want. Everybody pays.
Thank you, John. Anybody else? Jack?
Jack Straub, 225 Main Street. I don't want to bring up the dwellings versus rentals. The dwellings, when I grew up on Main Street, the baby had a room, my oldest sister had a room, there was a room with 3 boys and another room with 3 girls. So, I mean, I don't know what you would do there. But anyway, getting back to just on the rentals. So the way the ordinance reads, it says 1 bedroom, 2 persons, maximum of 120 square feet per room. But then when you get to 2 bedroom or 3 bedroom, there's no square foot. So is that, do you multiply that out, or is it there's just no restriction on?
No restriction.
Really? So there's a restriction on a 1 bedroom, but no restriction on 2 and 3 bedrooms?
Because they're different type of dwellings. Like a 1 bedroom and a minimum of 120 square foot, you know, you're talking about in that situation, like a smaller space, an
Right,
apartment.
right.
So that's why, under housing law, they've come up with these restrictions, because you don't want to have, you don't want to have it called a one bedroom if it's 60 square feet.
Right,
So
right.
we're trying to always conform with housing laws. And
Okay.
again, to your point, you know, in the past, people used to live, you know, with 3 kids in one bedroom, 3 kids in another bedroom, that, like.
Those aren't
and-
rentals, right, I'm just talking about rentals.
But the reason, but through the years, these housing laws and standards have been developed because of safety laws.
Right.
I mean, and I don't want, but it's like a fire.
Sure.
God forbid a fire happens. You know, that's why these restrictions have been developed through the years. It's been done carefully too, to make sure that we're complying with people's rights to own property and not interfere with it. But it really, the genesis of all of these standards come out of a public health and safety rationale, and giving the municipalities the ability to control it. For the reasons that Mr. Merlo mentioned, it did, you know, it did become a problem that this council, it's been brought to the council's attention when it comes to renters. We want to make sure people are safe there.
Right.
It's not intended to be a punitive action against people who own property and rent, to limit their ability to do so. It's intended to make sure that those people who are living in those dwellings are safe. And so, now, 2-bedroom and 3-bedroom, we're not talking, at that point, apartments get larger,
Right.
if there's a 2-bedroom. And then when we're going 2-bedroom, we're talking about home, we're starting to get into the homes. So that's why they're not talking about 120 square feet per room at that point anymore. We're not, we don't really make.
I guess I was looking at it the other way. If you had 2 bedrooms, one smaller than the other, and the bigger one was 120, but the smaller one was 80, you could still put 2 people in the 80 because there's no restriction on 2 bedrooms. Then just use the big bedroom as the one that met the requirement, so.
But, again, I did draft this language based on instructions from the council.
Okay, I was just trying.
But let me give you the standards, though, I don't pretend to come up with, because again, they come and they're based upon standards developed by housing experts through the years to take that balance of
Right.
what's too much restrictive, what's safe, and these are the recommendations of how to draft this language by a town. So,
Yeah, no, I'm not arguing.
and by the way, to avoid any type of.
Yeah, I'm not arguing, I just want to make sure, so there's no typo, this is exactly how it was. Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you, Jen. Anybody else? Donna?
Maybe I'm not understanding either. Donna Purcell, 396 Maple Place. I'm hearing what you say, right? But that's almost saying like nobody's going to rent a 3-bedroom home. There's plenty of single-family homes that fall under rental. They could be 3 bedrooms, 5 bedrooms, but then there's no restriction there. So
There is. It would be then considered a rental at that point as well.
So once it's considered a rental,
It's not a dwelling?
No, it's still a dwelling.
okay.
Dwelling applies, that first section applies to everything.
Okay,
The
but
sec-
I'm talking about the 1 bedroom as opposed to the first bedroom as opposed to the second and third. So if you're restricting, and again, it's not on you, we hear what you're saying, you
Yeah,
didn't
no.
make these rules, we get it, it's just a matter of trying to understand it. So if you're in
gonna
the
give-
1
I'm gonna
bedroom,
give-
you can only put 2 people, but those other 2 and 3 bedrooms, go ahead and put 6.
Yeah.
So that doesn't make any sense, and I hear what you're saying, that these are experts, but
So,
then I want to comment on people not letting anybody in, because I think people are scared to death. Their taxes have risen. Our assessments have gone up. So I've had people say to me, and they're single family, they're like, I'm not letting them in. I'm like, well, I don't know what to tell you. But if you don't let them in, it's going to make it look like you're hiding something. But they're really fearful of letting people in. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Do we have a motion to close to the public?
motion.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Do we have a motion to adopt the ordinance?
Motion.
Second.
Michelle?
Councilmember Demarest.
Yes.
Councilmember Riley.
Yes.
Councilmember Vecchio.
Yes.
Councilmember Pepperoni.
Yes.
Councilmember McNamara.
Yes.
And Councilmember Davidson.
Yes.
Thank you. We have a motion authorizing the clerk to publish the ordinance as
Motion.
adopted.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Communication by consent for approval by the council. Is there any questions before line number 5? Yeah.
Question, I know at the, I guess it was the January 17th meeting, we were asked to give an okay, I guess, to the fire department to hold the date for the parade because they needed to
Correct.
be able to secure vans and things like that. Did we ever get an actual event application for DPW and the police?
They submitted to Michelle just the event. Did they send the DPW and the police for them?
Yes. Okay. And then, oh, I guess the Keyport Public School application, I mean, I guess that's a good practice in terms of a heads up. Is that, I guess my question would be whether or not the chief needs any other information since that's coming for the, besides the calendar?
I just got it today, so we're reviewing. We'll review this and thank you.
Oh, and can I ask one last thing? When we get things like people stepping down from boards, can we actually get copies? Like, do they email us or do they send letters of resignation?
This one wasn't a letter of resignation. I spoke with Jay Delaney, prior business administrator, and he advised all we needed for Roy to step down is a call, which is what we did, and then I forwarded the email to Michelle and to Jay.
Okay, and then the KBBC one?
The same thing.
That was
Well,
just a-
we actually have a letter from Larry Vecchio advising Dolores is resigning.
But we don't have anything from her, okay. I don't know that we need, but just, thank you.
Okay, do we have an approval and receipt and file, motion to approve communication by consent and to receive and file 6 and 7?
Motion. Second.
Roll call. Michelle?
Councilmember Devereux?
Yes.
Councilmember Wiley? Yes. Councilmember Beckley? Yes. Councilmember Pepperoni?
Yes.
Councilmember McNamara?
Yes.
Councilmember Davidson?
Yes.
Thank you.
Minutes for approval, January 17, 2023, council meeting minutes. Do we have a motion?
Oh, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Reports, municipal clerk report for January 2023, tax water sewer collector report January 2023, Board of Health treasurer's report January 2023, building department report January 2023, municipal court report for January 2023. Do we have a motion to approve?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we have new business, yoga and Tai Chi license lease agreements. Does anybody, was that,
So,
was that you?
I don't know who put it on.
I don't know who put that
So,
on.
Recreation asked me, instead of it going through Recreation, if we could just have it set up like the hot dog stand, where it just goes through and they apply right, instead of being a Recreation, you know, they apply through Recreation right now, but instead pull it out of them, so we're like taking steps off because it's,
So where would it fall in?
they're just renting property. So it's more or less what the hot dog stand and the kayak does. So it'd be under the same,
But where would they be,
they're on the lawn over here.
but we already have the yoga, don't we?
That's,
That's
it's
the
a
one,
deck.
I think.
I think what's being proposed, just for clarification, is currently the way the program is run is we pay the yoga and Tai Chi instructors for each lesson that they provide. And our borough takes in all of the fees when people buy a pass for the season. So we handle all that paperwork. What's being proposed is instead, like we do with the canoe guy, here, you pay us X, now you have use of that property for Sundays at 8 and Tuesdays at 7. You go handle all the paperwork instead of us doing all the little forms.
Yep.
And let the, whoever gets that contract, handle that, and just pay us a fee.
Thanks, Kathleen.
You're welcome, Ron.
I knew you had the back end of that. I had the front, not the back.
So what I would propose on that is to wait until we have our new business administrator, so that she can, advise how she's also seeing it.
But that might hold them up. Right?
Usually, we don't usually do it till sometime in March.
Is it that
anyway.
late? Okay.
Yeah.
So another month won't matter for them? I think?
Well, not that you'll hear from them, I'm sure.
Okay, dais updates. Do you have a dais update? Chief?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. From February 1st to February, I really don't. From February 1st to February 21st, we have a total of 768 calls for service, 28 case files being worked on, 227 motor vehicle stops, 3 DWI, 134 summons issued, and 31 motor vehicle accidents. February was is Heart Healthy Month. Our Bulletproof Your Heart event was a good success. It was set up here. A large amount of people came. I think it was like 17 came, and the percentages were really high on what they found. Like a lot of people got sent to stress tests and beyond. So it was a pretty eye-opening event. We began issuing ABC ID cards. So you'll see anybody that needs them, they can contact Lieutenant Johnson. He's beginning the process of reissuing identifying cards to all the ABC employees in town. Also, we've been working with JCP&L, and currently to date we have 68 poles reported for repair. We began the whole process again. Also want to clarify that there was a portion of the poles that were being complained about. They were not borough responsibility. We are looking into, I spoke to the new borough administrator that's coming, and she's helping to pull the developer agreement just to see exactly whose responsibility some of the poles are. That's it, thank you.
Thank you. Eric?
Yeah, briefly, just to go back into it, I was able to touch on it a little bit at the last meeting, which was the water main break on Route 35. Again, that occurred, or the DPW was notified at about 4 p.m. on Sunday, February 5th, that there was a water main break. This was in the left-hand lane of Route 35. They responded at that time along with the DOT to set up the proper traffic control so that they could excavate down and locate the leak. They brought in B&W to help do the excavation. They were able to locate the leak. They had to install an insertion valve just upstream of the leak in order to help isolate it and repair that section of pipe. They worked continuously throughout the night of Sunday into Monday, and Route 35 was reopened at about 7 p.m. Monday night. So, all told, a lot of work done in the DOT. DPW, I know, was out there, like I said, the entire night and pretty much all day Monday. This was an emergency event and had to be treated as such. It wasn't something that we could wait to repair at a later date or try to get different quotes from companies to come out. And so that's the update on that. The road is back open. The bill has been approved to be paid. And that's what I have for this week.
Thank you. Michelle, do you have anything?
I'd just like to mention that the nominating petitions have been received for the election, if anybody's
Thank you. Okay. Everything's
Mayor? Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry, just add one thing to the, I guess I wasn't here when we talked about the JCP&L polls at the last meeting. So perhaps we can make a note for the new BA. I know Mr. Lane has referenced it many times over the past few years, to clean up on the poles regarding all the cables that are overhanging that have become a serious issue along First Street. I think there's some, they're all over, so maybe we can start addressing that issue a little bit more.
And Derek, just so you know, Trevor was actually working with JCP now, trying to give a lot of loose wires throughout the town.
Okay.
And I don't know how far he has gotten on that, because there's still a lot of loose wires all over town. So if you
I'll take
can
the-
speak with Trevor first to see how far he has gotten, and then if you could take that part over.
I believe most of it was the cable, the
Cable.
Verizon cable. I don't know if it was the electric company that has the overhanging wires. I think mostly just cable and phone.
A lot of cable.
A lot of cable and phone. That's absolutely.
We'll also note that when we report the lights out, we'll note loose wires as well, if that'll help the process.
Chief, can I ask you something on the 68 reported that were out? How long before they get back to you? So that
72 hours, they're required to respond within 72 hours.
Thank you. Okay, public comment portion. The meeting's open to the public. Do we have a motion?
Motion.
Second. All in favor?
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for your time. Mayor Ranino, Chief Torres, Ms. McNamara, if you could just clarify what you said in the beginning as far as the cannabis program goes. That is still under litigation, correct? And that you'll be moving forward in the end of March, beginning of April?
No, the anticipation, excuse me, is that the litigation will wrap up around that.
Okay.
We are actually, Cannabis Committee is having a meeting next week to do a review of our application, our process, and all of that during this time so that we're ready to move forward.
Excellent. So I'm assuming everybody read my email?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, and everybody?
Just so you know, we're not being rude by not responding, but when you copy all of us, we can't respond because it's a quorum, so.
Okay, I do know that. I was just giving you a little bit of time until I was certified, and now you are aware that I'm licensed through the CRC. So what you're basically saying is that if you can move forward, you are going to have a meeting so you could discuss opening up the application again?
Well, first we have to review
All right,
our
thanks.
process, and then we would be looking to see about opening it up.
Great. I do have a question. Well, let me say. Obviously, you know that there is a time frame on this.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, more than anything, I would love to keep it Keyport. I have Keyport pride. Once again, you know that the location is something that you guys have picked, well, the ordinance have picked. So there is no foot patrol. It is completely in a secluded area.
I do have a question for
Sure.
you. I drove over there today.
Great.
And I drove in, so I was just trying to figure out what location
So
within.
mad. I was going to attach the pictures in the
Okay.
email, and I said, I don't want to overwhelm you guys. There's so much going on. When you pull into the gate, you make the right.
Okay.
You go down to the end, then you follow it all the way to the back. I do have pictures on my cell phone. When the meeting is done, I will absolutely show you. There is one way in the back is the creek. So there's no homeowners around. My realtor is here, he confirmed that. So it is definitely secluded, and of course, as you know, we have to follow modifications from the CRC. So that whole building, the landlord is in agreement with it, we have to rebuild it up. Obviously, you know the work and the money that goes into this plan. This was well thought out, we've been working on it for a while and some time now. We are ready to move forward the minute that you are. Sounds like we need to generate some more taxes in this town, right? So,
Tax money.
tax money, not taxes, tax money.
Some people might say it's the same
Yeah, no, so I think everyone is doing a good job, and I appreciate it.
And tomorrow is the day that it's official that you can do vertical integration. So.
Thank you all very, very much.
Thank you.
Certified.
George Palmer, 54 Second Street. Councilman Davidson, on Resolution 2023-59, he asked to have that pulled on January 17th meeting. That was in the donation
of the
of
Durango?
the park.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, did you get any update on that?
No, we haven't. We've discussed it with the attorney.
Right?
It's about the donated, the vehicle.
Donated vehicle, yeah. It seems, we're doing an investigation, sir, and the initial feedback is that they've never accepted that donation, technically, the borough. So it's not technically the property of the borough at this point in time. So we'll have to get back to, it's something that we're looking at legally, plus, waiting for the new BA to come in to kind of wrap it all up.
Okay. Second thing is, did we ever find out on Atlantic Street who authorized the gas company to cut that street open?
Church Street.
Oh, Church Street, I'm sorry.
No, actually, Trevor was working with them on it.
Yeah.
There's actually an ongoing issue there also. They wanted to open another 2 spots on there because they did find a problem there. So I advised Trevor that he needs to go back to them because they're not just going to open it up without paving everything. So Trevor is getting back to me on that.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Yes, John.
John Morello, 34 Broad Street. I am really happy to hear about the lights. I went into my notes tonight before I got here, because it's on my list. I brought this up 7 times last year and twice this year, that the lights that are out around the town, and I reported at the last meeting that I had counted 118. Just so we're sure, and I'm not debating the chief with her number. Mine included poles that were hit by vehicles 5 years ago, 10 years ago, even the one on Main Street 12 years ago that are still up that need to come out of the ground because a new pole was put in its place. There's one across the street from Lori's house, there's one down the street from Ron's house, one down the street from Kathleen's house. So they're all over Keyport, the poles that don't belong there. And Jersey Central should be notified that if a pole's hit and a new one's put in, take the old one out. Don't wait 12 years. The other thing is, there are a lot of lights in town that, yes, they're on private property, and they're also borough-owned. Tonight, there's 18 lights out down on the waterfront, and they were out last night too. So it wasn't like they just went out when Merle drove by tonight. They were out last night too. So something's wrong, and someone should be seeing that, okay? So I'm just telling you what I see. The other thing is that I brought up at the last meeting, the light by 7-Eleven, the traffic light. It goes from green to amber to red, from amber to red, 4 seconds. I was there last night, did it again. So I went to the vehicle accident the other night, it did it again. So
I have an update on that.
okay. And the light by Broadway and West 4th by Town and Country. Same thing. That's an issue in itself too. That project that's being done. I don't know if the mayor's talked to you about that or talked to CME, but that project almost shut that diner down because of that bridge being closed.
Yeah, we've
They
talked
also
about
spoke
that.
to Trevor on that, so they both are aware, and Trevor has setting up an appointment.
My last issue is that, and the council's got to be forceful in this, Mrs. Grabowski brought it up tonight about garbage in residential. Last night in downtown, there were 6 businesses, 6 out of our businesses between Broad and Beers that had massive black bags out with no garbage cans, no lids. We have an ordinance. It says that they have to be in a can with a lid. And this is not a good look. I'm going to be honest with you. Not when new businesses are flocking to the town. New storefronts are going to be opening on East Front Street. You got Drew just put a bunch of money into his place. New restaurants opening on Broad Street. 3 new stores going to be erected on East Front Street. You know, everybody loves to come into Keyport and they love to express how beautiful our town is. But let's not let it go. Enforcement has to be notified, and this cannot stop. Yes, give them a notice and just gotta stop it. The landlord and the tenant. You know, the tenant's putting it out, the landlord probably doesn't even know about it, but he should be responsible, or she should be responsible for buying the garbage cans to put the garbage in. It's not good, okay? Thank you.
Thank you, John. Do you want to address John?
Sure. Today we actually called out to county. We had someone come out because we were like, we keep getting this came out last time and we were a little more forceful. The sensors were off, so it wasn't a dangerous situation. That's what they had said last time. We felt a little differently, so they came out today and they were able to turn the sensors back on. So what it was doing is, it was just circulating when a car wasn't at the other side of the light, so it wasn't sensing that there was 2 cars pulled up. But they were able to fix it today. So we'll monitor it and we'll make sure that it continues to work as it should.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anybody else?
I'm sorry, I have one more thing to say. Cabin 11, 139. I left out the most important part, is the security that goes along with this business. That is monitored by the New Jersey state. We have to put a lot of, that's part of the project plan. So we have our own security from every angle, security cameras, security people that are on 24 hours. So I just wanted to let everybody know because I respect them. And I know that these laws are new, and I know it's unsettling for people. But I just wanted to let you know that that is part of the business plan. It's a must. It's tied into the CRC. So, thank you.
Thank you. Rick?
Robert Omac, 67 West Front Street. One quick thing before upon the spring season here. Before you approve 16 or 18 straight weeks of music in the park in town, can you please take the residents in consideration? I'd like to use my outside on Sundays sometime in the summer and not hear calypso music and speakers playing.
I actually addressed that with Melissa from the KBBC, and she never actually realized that when they planned it.
Yeah.
Because they're thinking of the event, but they're not thinking of the residents also.
Yeah. I just wanted to bring up before we even got to that bridge and I came to complain. Thank you very much, Margaret. Thank you.
Elmer?
Elmer J. Graham Jr., 22 St. Peter's Place. Couple of things. First of all, Madam Mayor, on the Veterans Committee, I hope we have a meeting soon.
March 3rd.
March 3rd, good.
You gonna be there?
I'll do my,
I'll do my best.
You
I
know I'll
have a
be
meeting
there.
with the Legion, so we'll set this up.
So at least around
Don't
March
worry, you've been
3rd.
asking for 2 years, you better be there.
That's right. You know me, Councilwoman Pepperoni.
He's bringing Governor Murphy.
I never give up. I never quit. I'm no quit.
I like it.
Okay, another subject now. I know I've talked about this before, and Councilwoman McNamara knows about this. We Care Adult Care Center. As I told you all, I attend that. I attend it 2 to 3 times a week. I'm a volunteer there, and plus they help me out as a client and stuff like that. And they're in need of volunteers. You know, spoken to Councilwoman McNamara about this, and I also talked to Kelly Desmond about it, one of the people who work at We Care, and I told her about the Keyport High School thing. The staff at We Care is terrific. What they have to work with every day, with people with dementia problems, and you were at the Senior Citizen Center about that, right? You met Kelly Desmond, right? And staff there is outstanding. They could use the help, and plus, if any of you all know any Keyport residents who need to go to We Care, they're on Highway 35 in Middletown, New Jersey, Red Bank, New Jersey, Union Square, and they're open 5 days a week, and they'll help you, believe me. They're, like I said, terrific staff, terrific people there, and they need the help, and they can help you too. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Andrew Kelsey, 29 St. Peter's. Is there an update on the curb ramp situation?
I've met with the mayor and the new BA, and we're going to look at addressing that. That's one of our top priorities. So it's going to take some time to put some plans in place, but I can tell you that that's on the top of my list to address.
Were you able to get out and take a look at it or no?
I have seen some of them, and I'm hoping. I don't wish it to rain, but it's supposed to rain tomorrow, and I'm coming to see a lot of other areas as well. If it does that, but like I said, that's at the top of our
Okay,
priority
great.
list.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Yes, please. I don't know if it's ever been done before, but I'm gonna do it. So, My name is J. Christopher Demers. I'm at 101 Green Grove Avenue. Presently, but previously, I grew up at 115 Lapatong Avenue. It's Luppatatong Avenue, Keyport, New Jersey, 07735. So, forgive me for my passion, but I've been here since the 60s, the 70s, the 80s. I heard Bert mention something before. I drove my bike from Lapatong down here. There was always water down there. Not to diminish what you guys are trying to do. We put Band-Aids on it for years, man. We've been trying to fix that thing for years. The only way you're going to fix that is elevate the property 35 feet, and we're not going to do that. So I think we're constantly wasting money trying to put Band-Aids on things down here, and we're not solving the problem. The problem is always going to be there. And what Union Beach doing, that $50 million project, that water's going to come right down here, and water's going to find a way around whatever needs going to. Mr. Walling here, he said Ring Road. Man, that rung a bell to me, because that's what we used to call it, Ring Road. And the water, the road was right on the bulkhead. So I'm not saying that it's not necessary, but we put a ton of Band-Aids on this thing over the years. I heard Bert back there talk about it. Over the years, we put Band-Aids on this thing, and we have the same problem. Keyport is a water town. It's a water town. We're never going to solve the problem. We can fix it. We can try to make it go different places, but we're always going to have water down here because water's going to find the most shallowest place, and that's where it is in town, unless we raise the thing. The other thing I want to say is, where's all this hate coming from, man? Where's all this hate? I grew up in this town in the 60s, 70s, and there was no hate. There was people that disagreed. There was people that had different opinions, but there was no hate. There's hate here, man. There's hate everywhere. And this ain't Keyport that I know. This ain't Keyport that I grew up in. There was people all over the place that had different opinions, but there wasn't any hate. We got to lower the temperature a little bit. I had a pleasure to go see the chief the other day. Whether you like the chief, don't like the chief. You like the police, you don't like the police. It doesn't matter. I go through that office place over there. None of us in here would have our home like that. None of us. There's pieces of sheetrock cut out with holes in the wall. There's the ceiling tiles are out with tarps leading to a water thing, protecting all of our equipment. It's crazy. I'm behind this mayor, not 100%, 1,000%. I went up to her office the other day. Every time there should be a new mayor that's elected to this town, there should be a cleaning service. Go in that room, clean the room, paint the room, whatever the mayor wants it to be, and that's how it should be. Period. That's it. There should be end of discussion. That's how it should be. I've already touched on the DPW. I've already did that. Okay, the other thing I want to touch on is recreation. Because right now, from 4 to 12, we do an outstanding job for kids aged 4 to 12. We have the Easter egg hunt. We have the Easter bunny on the back of the truck. We have movies down here. What do we do for kids from 12, 13, 18? You know what the answer is besides the skate park? Zero. Zero. And I sat in a rec meeting the other day, and we spoke about some things. We do zero for kids 13, 18. And then we bitch more to complain about these kids because the kids are bored. They have nothing. They're not bad kids, they're bored kids. I had pull teeth just to get nets up on the courts around town. We have to redo all the courts because we only have one down at Teresa Street. We only have one down here at Cedar Street. We have to repair these for the kids because we're going to get a nice day in January. We're going to get a nice day in February. The kids want to be out shooting hoops. I got kids over to high school yelling out the window, "Hey coach, if you get those courts fixed, we'll play on them. We'll be out there. We'll use all those courts." But they're not going to use them now. The courts are ridiculous. So we don't do anything for kids of that age. There's some wonderful things we do from ages kids 5 to 12. Some wonderful things that we do. And I think we should invite the senior citizens down to watch movies down there with some of the younger kids so they can bond together. Because you wouldn't be surprised what happens when that happens. But I grew up in this town. When I was 15, 16, there was so much things to do for those kids. We ran out of stuff. I was with the KYL baseball, basketball. They're nowhere to be found. Is it done on purpose? Was it done on purpose? Or was there a reason for it? Okay? Same thing with the wrestling. All this stuff should be pumped in for these kids to have activities to do when it's a nice day out, get on their bikes and go do something. We don't do nothing for the kids. And I will fight for the kids. You can throw me off this board. You can do whatever you want to do. But I will fight for the kids in this town because I know them. I go down to the gym and I work out. They talk to me down there. They talk to me from the high school. They talk to me all over this town. The kids talk to me. Give us something. Give us something. We do nothing. We turn our backs. Well, we got to stop. We got to take these grants. We got to take these bonds. Whatever it is that we got to do to make these courts, to make these fields, whatever, for these kids to go play and have fun and do what they need to do. Because right now, we're all complaining because the kids are leaving and going to other places. Why are they going to other places? We don't provide anything for them in this town. Zero. We don't provide nothing for them. Nothing for the kids. Zero. I want to be able to provide it, so then we have a leg to stand on. Why would you go somewhere else when we're providing it for you here? Then we have a leg to stand on. Right now, we have no leg to stand on. If kids are going other places, they're going other places. What are we going to do about it? We can't argue with them. We have no leg to stand on. So all you have to do is go one town over, Union Beach, and that's a whole other topic for me. You can go over there and find out what they do for their playgrounds and for their courts. We don't do them here, but they do them over there. But they used to send all those kids over here, and we used to get $17,000 on taxes for all those kids. Oh, I knew I was born here in 65, I know. All those kids, I went to the little school over here in Washington, don't work over there. Kindergarten, first grade, they're knocked down. But the courts are still back there, and it goes for the playgrounds too. We should be able to fix the playgrounds for these kids. So if the kids want to go play, those younger kids, they can go play. We don't have to worry about it being rusted and this. I got a call, go fix the swing set, go do this, go do that. Beg them, but there was I already explained to you what the problem was. We got to do things for this town for our kids. And if we do things for our kids, it will come back twofold to us, threefold to us. But if we ignore them and they leave and go other places, we cannot argue that. We cannot get mad at them for doing that. Okay? There's a lot of things I want to touch on, and I just want to make sure we understood that. And I want to understand, we should go into that police station right over here and walk around and look exactly what I said. You'd be like, whoa, I would never let my house be like that. This whole building needs to be taken care of.
That's why you're up there elected. We love you now.
So that's that. I don't know why everyone's trying to do this big. It doesn't matter to me. It doesn't matter to me. So anyway, that's that.
Thank you. I'm not on that governing body, looking at me.
Everybody don't start doing this. Start going like this. Let's get it done.
That's why
Let's get it done.
There it is.
Let's get it done.
There, that's
There we
right.
go.
That's
You
right.
got it.
Here we go.
You got it.
Really?
Jack Straub, 225 Main Street. Councilmember Demarest, appreciate your comments. I have one question. I understand your
I don't know all the lingo, so excuse me. Don't start throwing lingo at me, but I know what you're saying. Go
I
ahead.
understand your argument about the flooding and, maybe
You've
not.
been here as long as I have.
I understand. But my question is, if you're opposed to doing
I'm
that.
not opposed. I just say we waste the money because we put band-aids on it year and year and year. I watched it all.
Then why did you vote for it?
Okay? What's that?
Then why did you vote to approve it?
Because here's what I am. I just said in my speech, I'm behind this mayor 1,000%. And being behind the mayor 1,000%, my negative vote ain't gonna help. So I'm behind the mayor, what she wants to do. So I'll help with it. I'll support it, but I'm just saying, it's not gonna solve the problem. We're just gonna spend more money on the thing. The gentleman even said, in 10 years, we're gonna have a flood. In 10 years, we're gonna have a flood. So what the heck are we doing? We're gonna put more money to it? So, okay, let's fix it. Okay, I see what they did. But it's what Union Beach is doing. You know what Union Beach is doing us right now? This. Just so I'm gonna tell you the truth. They're doing this. Because the water's coming flooded down this way.
Okay.
So that's that. That's it.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay. Anybody else? Wow. Motion to close the public?
Motion.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Motion to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Here, here.